There is an incredibly persistent idea that reading a novel automatically upgrades your character. We treat books like vegetables for the brain. Swallow enough of them, and you will inevitably become more empathetic, sensitive, and morally upstanding. You see this transactional approach everywhere today. Traditionalists push classic texts to drill in a sense of civic duty and good morals, while progressives champion reading lists as a fast-track course in empathy for marginalized groups. But if literature is simply a delivery system for a moral lesson, the format itself becomes incredibly inefficient. If the entire point of a 400-page novel is to teach us that cruelty is bad, reading a bulleted summary or a short post online should do the exact same job. Treating books like processed food for thought, where we decide exactly what nutritional value we're supposed to extract before we even open the cover, completely misses what the act of reading actually does to our minds. To understand how we locked ourselves into this mindset, we have to look back to Victorian Britain. Public education was rapidly expanding, and with it came a deep societal anxiety about how people spent their time. Every activity, including reading, suddenly had to be justified in strict terms of measurable gains and losses. This anxiety sparked a fierce, high-profile debate between two of the era's most prominent intellectuals, centered entirely on a single question: are books actually instruments of moral betterment? Peeling back the layers of that specific historical clash is the only way to shed our modern utilitarian expectations and see the written word for what it really is. The man who championed the moral value of reading was the critic John Ruskin. He diagnosed his society as spiritually bankrupt, infected by a growing obsession with ensuring every single action had to strictly pay in some tangible way. Ruskin argued that reading was the ultimate counter-investment. Instead of shallow texts to climb social ladders, you could open a book and access history's wisest minds. He wasn't the first to think this way. Decades earlier, the political theorist Madame de Staël had argued that literature actively forged national unity. By sharpening how we use language, fiction could directly train citizens to participate in a democracy. It is a highly optimistic view, but it turns the author into an unquestionable preacher. It frames the entire act of reading as an exercise in social compliance, where your only job is to absorb the correct instructions. That approach deeply frustrated a young Marcel Proust, who aggressively rejected the entire cost-benefit defense of literature. Proust argued that reading is absolutely nothing like a social conversation. In real life, our speech is always constrained by politeness and social rules. Reading, instead, is a highly unique form of communication that happens entirely in solitude. In that private space, you have absolute freedom. You can find a supposedly brilliant writer entirely boring, or you can warp their intended meaning to fit your own internal, subjective experience. For Proust, reading is not a collective moral education where we learn how to behave in society. It is an intensely personal, internal training ground where we cultivate our own ability to make sense of the world. The political philosopher Jean-Jacques Rousseau took this idea even further. He noted that the educated elite rarely learn anything from books. They simply use them to validate their pre-existing biases and assert their superiority over everyone else. To actually reach a reader, Rousseau argued that a writer has to speak what he called the language of the lonely. They have to deliberately bypass the witty, transactional phrases that dominate high society. This is literary citizenship. When societal values lock into rigid systems of economic and governmental control, literature offers an alternative currency. It fractures those grids. Bypassing preset transactional language gives our minds the space to operate independently from the structures trying to govern us. Historically, literature was never designed to preach good behavior. It emerged as a vital psychological check against dominating, alienating social forces. We now live inside an attention economy that runs almost entirely on harvesting our personal data and feeding us algorithmic content. The digital narratives we consume every day deliberately blur the line between reality and fiction, heavily optimizing for simplistic moral outrage because that is what keeps us scrolling. A novel operates in the exact opposite direction. It demands sustained, unbroken focus and actively refuses to offer the grand, easy answers that algorithms thrive on. Writers like Percival Everett force readers to sit with complex, oblique perspectives. Instead of feeding you a prepackaged truth, his work demands that you navigate the uncomfortable discrepancies between a character's internal reality and the stereotypes they project to survive. This makes literature an active defense mechanism. It stops us from outsourcing the crucial work of understanding our own lives to influencers, politicians, or data streams. The true utility of a book only reveals itself when we stop demanding that it act as political propaganda or an instruction manual for being a good person. Because the written word requires us to construct the meaning ourselves, it creates mental leeway. It trains us to dissect false presumptions and recognize nuance in a way the immediate, overwhelming impact of visual media rarely allows. In a digital landscape where it is widely assumed that objective truth is dead, relishing the slow, difficult search for complexity is a radical act, a moment of wonder. Stripped of the easy moralizing we try to force onto it, reading does not exist to make us better people. It exists to make us free.